Oh, what the hell is that?
In Easter of 2022, inspired by Geowizard's own adventures, I decided to attempt to cross the Belgian Ardennes in a straight line. So, on the 11th of April, I hitchhiked and walked my way to the eastern end of my planned line, which lay right on the border between France and Belgium.
C'est parce que j'ai des choses à faire, sinon je vous aurais déposé à fenêtre.
Ouais, mais c'est super gentil, vraiment, c'est déjà très sympa de vous être arrêté. I've just realized that I might have a small problem, and that is that I've just lost a water bottle somewhere, maybe in the train or whatever, but I had two water bottles, and one of them was 1 litre and the other was 3/4 of a litre, and of course it's the 1 litre one that I've lost. Yep, the mission was already off to a great start, but worry not, I had plans to deal with this situation. First of all, I had pre-cooked some white rice, which meant at least I wouldn't have to use what little water I had left to boil it. Second, I was planning to collect water from rivers and boil it occasionally to replenish my supplies. Whoa, fuck. Alright, we just barely made it across. To the left of me is France and to the right is Belgium. And I'm about to go this way in a perfectly straight line for about 75 kilometers, and hopefully by the end of that, well, I'll reach the border between Luxembourg and Belgium. So I hope to do that in about 4 days or something like that, maybe less, I don't know. I mean, quite possible that I will take more than 4 days to do this, but anyway, we'll see. Ahead of me lay 75 kilometers of dense forests and deep valleys, full of brambles and pine trees ready to tear my skin off, as well as many other unpleasant obstacles, as you'll see in a moment. But at that precise moment, I knew nothing of all this and still believed I would have no trouble walking between the trees, as you can tell by my remarkably stupid objective to walk the entire thing in 4 days, or maybe even less. Yeah. Okay, so it's recording, and let's go. So unfortunately, it seems like the GPS is a little bit confused because we're in such a deep encased valley. I hope we'll get better later, but either way, let's go. The first obstacle to cross was the little river that marked the border between Belgium and France. At first I thought it wouldn't be too hard to cross it, but it turns out the currents were quite strong and I almost got swept off my feet a couple times. Where do I go from here without slipping in the water? You know what, I'm gonna go there. That looks a bit easier. Okay. Whoa. Shit. Right, cool walking stick. Once I set foot firmly onto the other side of the river, I checked my phone to see if I had deviated from the line at all. And to my great surprise, it turns out that I did in fact stay quite close to the line. However, owing to my inexperience with straight line missions, the poor accuracy of the map I had downloaded, and the dodgy GPS signal, I started going off in the wrong direction. Luckily, I realized this quite quickly and I decided I ought to start this mission in a proper way. This meant crawling through the bushes in order to rejoin my line. Great. All of this for this. Right. Thanks to my efforts, I managed to stay within 10 meters of the line. As I climbed up the steep sides of the valley, I learned to trust my GPS and managed to follow the line quite well. This is the moment that I got acquainted with the source of about 90% of my troubles during this straight line mission. Anti-wildlife barriers were around 2 meters high and most of them had barbed wire on top of them. This particular fence, though, did not even manage to make me deviate too significantly from the line. Just a few hundred meters further was another fence. As you can see, neither of these fences proved to be a major obstacle on my way. However, I did pay the price for my passage with a few new holes in my jeans and my jumper. Soon, it was time for me to dive into an ocean of green pine trees. Unfortunately, my ability to follow the line did take a little bit of a toll, but overall I think I did a not too bad job at staying on the line. As I progressed deeper into the forest, the undergrowth got thicker and slowed me down immensely. My initial hope was that it wouldn't last for too long, but I quickly realized this would probably not be the case, as the situation got worse and worse. The thick pine tree plantations were only interrupted by the occasional wild boar pond or anti-wildlife barriers which, quite evidently, weren't serving their purpose very well. I won't make you watch hours of this rather boring footage, but basically, this is exactly what the next few kilometers were like. Sometimes, I would have to fight for every step, every meter of progress, while some other times, the forest would open up and I was able to make some progress. The majority of the time though, the only way forward was for me to channel my inner wild boar and to wiggle and brute force my way through the branches. First farm. back in the woods. We've done 9 kilometers today, which is not an awful lot. And most of it was through the woods, and that was really painful. And yeah, I just checked the map and it's not good news. It's mostly going to be this for the rest of the trip, basically. Well, actually, I don't know. I think maybe there are going to be some points where it will be a bit better. Like, for instance, here, actually, it's alright. I mean, honestly, it's not too bad. But, yeah, morale is good. And there's some water right down there. There's a little stream, so I'll go get some water for myself. I'll boil it, and that should help solve our water problems already. On a lighter note, I finally figured out what had happened to my water bottle. So this is going to be my first match. Okay. Come on. Oh yeah. After a quick breakfast consisting entirely of cold white rice, it was time for me to battle the thick undergrowth again. A bit later, a pasture gave me a chance to leave the bramble patch that was slowly driving me nuts, in exchange for a couple of hedges and fences with thick prickly bushes. Despite the nasty thorns and my fear that a car would just stop and ask me what the hell was I doing, I managed to cross the fence bang on the line. After yet another patch of woodlands, I was faced with my first real challenge.
a sawmill buzzing with activity. Just after the sawmill, there was a pond that was right on my line.
Oh, what the hell is that? An inflatable raft. So, it is extremely unlikely that it is still in any kind of working condition, but I mean, I'll at least have a look at it. Oh no, definitely not. Oh man. So, nope, I don't think that's gonna work. That's a pity. So anyway, as I was saying, the line kind of goes this way, and yeah, I think I'm going to just have to go around it, and I think that's honestly going to be the biggest deviation from the line so far, unfortunately.
And this is when I made one of the biggest mistakes that I made in this whole trip so far. And that was to go towards the right around the pond instead of going over the little bridge. On the other side of the tracks, there was an old house which looked a little bit run down. I approached cautiously nonetheless, as I wasn't sure if it was inhabited or not. In the end, I was probably right to be cautious, as it looks like it was definitely inhabited. But no one saw me, and off I went to disappear into the woods again.
Oh no.
Soon enough, I was confronted again with a huge patch of brambles. This one, though, was not too hard to cross, as it was possible to walk over the brambles, since they were so dense it was almost like walking over a blanket. Nonetheless, this was still quite tiring, and it slowed me down quite a bit. finally, after what seemed like an eternity of crossing bushes, fences and other stuff, I stood in front of another channel. The first house wasn't too complicated. I just barged into their garden and in the process destroyed their hedge. The second house, on the other hand, proved to be a little bit more complicated. The fence was just too flimsy to support my weight, so I had to find another way.
So we haven't really made any good progress this morning. I'm really starting to think that I'm never going to finish this line. And of course that is kind of a blow to morale in itself.
Indeed, it wasn't long before I was stuck fighting against pine tree branches again. This entire section of about 500 meters took me almost an hour to complete. But much more worrying than my progress for my morale was the state of my battery. Indeed, for some reason, all the battery packs that I had brought with me had discharged during the night. This was probably due to the cold or something like that. I thought, well, surely it'll be fine. It'll be only 10 degrees during the night, so it's not that cold. But turns out I was probably wrong about that, and this was going to be a serious problem, since without a battery, or without a means to recharge my phone or my camera, the mission was basically over. Now, I do feel bad for rummaging through these people stuff, but at this point I was just so desperate for a drop of water that I couldn't resist looking around for a bottle of water. Having found nothing, I continued towards the river less. As I descended into the valley, the battery percentage of my phone kept going down and down steadily. This meant that I had to make a decision. Once I arrived on the banks of the river, I pondered what my options were. And realistically, I wasn't going to continue this 4-day mission with battery problems like I had. So I made the decision to interrupt my mission at this very point. Another factor that influenced my decision was the fact that, so far, I had taken much more time to achieve my goals than what I had planned. And it was becoming quite obvious that I was never going to finish this line before Friday of that week. And unfortunately, I had to go to work on Saturday.
So yeah, it doesn't feel too good to have interrupted the mission like that. Definitely feels like a failure. Although, what I will say is that I am glad, I am happy with what I've done. I think it was a pretty cool adventure, and I think the line looks really good, and we'll have a look in a minute. But of course, I did have to give up, and all that feels like a failure. And yeah, while editing this video, I missed the straight line. I honestly missed it, and now I really want to do it again. I want to finish this straight line. I would really like to finish the straight line properly, and even though, well, some of you might say that going back home like I did and interrupting the straight line is cheating, and well, I would agree with that. But to me, that's not really what's important. What's important to me is to finish the straight line. That will be quite the challenge anyway. But the good thing is I did learn quite a few lessons from this straight line mission. First of all, well, batteries, obviously. Just batteries are really the only thing that you need to have in working condition, and so I'll pay real good attention to that. Also, I was thinking about getting a solar array, one of those little portable solar array that you can kind of put on your bag or whatever, and that might help quite a bit with the situation. And also, I was thinking about shoes, because, well, my feet were covered in blisters after like day one pretty much, and a few of my toenails were starting to turn blue, and I could feel my feet moving around my shoe when I walked and rubbing against every possible surface, and that's really not good. So obviously that's something to improve upon. Apart from that, well, I think I did a fairly good job at following the line, and actually, well, let's have a look at what we did. So, unfortunately for the comparison and the straight line review, it seems like I suffered the exact same problem that Geowizard himself suffered in Norway, and that is basically that the line he traced on Google Earth was not the same as the line that he did follow. And that is probably because of how on Google Earth the line is projected on a flat surface or a globe, but on my phone or his GPS, the line was projected onto a flat surface. And that changes things, unfortunately. It's a bit annoying, and that is why in the video I included screenshots of the line that I did actually follow, so you could see what I did do. So, unfortunately on Google Earth I do not actually have the line that I did follow, so the comparison is going to be a bit complicated, but we can still have a look at the line and at least admire its straightness. I think it looks quite good. Honestly, it looks quite good. It's really very straight. That's one thing that can be said about it. And well, yeah, I mean, it looks ridiculous. That's kind of the thing. Also, it's just a straight line in the middle of nowhere, and to me that is very satisfying. What else can I say? Well, let's have a look. Let's go back to the start. Yeah, that's the start of the line right there.
Right there's the border, and the border was materialized by this little river that I had to cross in the beginning. And yeah, I mean, it was a bit complicated, as you saw. You already saw that, so let's not just waste any time on it. So I had to edit the line a little bit because it was really messy around here and it made no sense whatsoever. But other than that, everything went pretty straightforward after that. I think this is when I took a little break after the second fence. Yeah, anyway. Then there's this road and so on. There's nothing too interesting about this place. So this is the first time that I encountered these kind of really thick and dense undergrowths. Some of these sections are really straight, and I think I can be proud of myself for that, a little bit. So that was the first farm that I encountered, and as you can see, I had to deviate from the line a little bit. At least at first, it made sense for me to deviate from the line because there were a lot of fences and I was worried that one of them would be electric. And honestly, I mean, climbing an electric fence is just too painful. I'm not that much of a masochist to actually try it. So I had to deviate, and this is the reason for this first deviation. The second deviation, on the other hand, is honestly entirely my fault. I didn't really show it in the video because the footage was just really crap. But basically what happened is I walked up to the line and realized that it was also an electric fence. And then I kind of walked along it thinking, oh, I must find a place to cross and I must not be seen. I was a little bit panicked and everything. Well, not too panicked, but I was trying to get things done quickly. And after walking for a few meters along this way, I realized, well, actually, there are no animals in this pasture. So the electric fence is probably not even on. And so I tested it. I put my hand on it and, well, I didn't get electrocuted. So then I just kind of hopped the fence at that point and thought, well, I've already deviated from the line anyway, so why not do it at this point? So what was that? Oh yeah, that was the first pasture of day 2, and I'm quite proud of this because honestly I've done a really good job at following the line there. It's really very straight. Then that's the sawmill with the railway, and I did a fairly good job at crossing the line there too. However, right after that is the pond, and the pond is really where I made the biggest mistake. So as I've already explained more or less, I decided to go around the pond along the right. What happened is I saw the edge of the water, which came up to more or less where the satellite imagery shows it comes up. And so it kind of looked like it was doable to, walk this way and kind of shave off a few meters. But in reality, the water extends all the way down there, and so it's not actually possible to walk closer than that to the pond. And that's why I deviated more than I thought. Anyway, I mean, it's still not the biggest deviation in the world. It's 42 meters, and that's the biggest deviation on the entire trip. Then I crossed the railway underneath the bridge. So, yeah, I mean, again, pretty good straight line there. And then, I don't know what happened here. Oh, no, I do remember actually. So that was the fences. I think that fence was really, it was one of those anti-wildlife fences. And the thing is, it was so flimsy that, it would just collapse under my weight, sort of thing. But I still had to find a way to cross it, so I kind of looked around and that's why it looks like a big mess. Same thing happened here, pretty much. That, I think is just a GPS glitch. It's not, I didn't actually just wander around like that. Then, yeah, the line went fairly straight for a while, then wiggly again through the woods, then more or less straight, and that is where I crossed those 2 houses, which was quite fun. Yeah, I really crossed right in the middle of these people's backyard. I mean, if they were there in their kitchen, they would have seen me. When I think about it, it was quite close, but I got away. And then don't really know what happened there. I'd say that's probably just some GPS glitches again. Yep. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is where the little hut was, where I tried to find some water. And then, yep, that's That's the river. That's why I stopped. So overall, I did 22 kilometers along the line, and I have 55 left remaining. But I think it's doable, so yeah, hopefully you'll see me another time on a straight line mission, and in the meantime, bye bye.